Full disclosure, I am recording this audio on Thursday. It's July 14, 6:47 p.m. PST, and I wanted to start this video off by just giving a few claps here and there, baby, because my gosh, Stevie Y, Steve freaking Yzerman, dude. I didn't make videos on every single transaction that my favorite teams did. Not every single transaction was talked about here. There were a few Canucks players like Wyatt Kalynuk and Christian Wolanin that we did not make videos about. Same thing could be said for the Red Wings. They made a few signings here and there we did not talk about. And Mitchell Stevens, sorry. But for Detroit, I tried my best to go out there and actually make a video for everything that the Red Wings did, because what the Red Wings did here was so incredibly beautiful that it's tough to ignore the vision, the fruition that Steve Yzerman is manifesting here for this squad. Let's go over onto the signings list and just talk about the names that Steve Yzerman added onto his hockey team for 2022-2023. Free agency kicked off with not even a move that was free agent related. It was Ville Husso. He was traded from the St. Louis Blues at the draft, actually, and it was really great to see him go over to Detroit because he was a goaltender that a lot of fans of the Oilers and the Maple Leafs were saying, hey, Jordan Binnington is still the number one guy in St. Louis, and Husso was not terrible when he started out in the playoffs for that team in round one against the, oh my goodness, who the heck did they play in round one? Oh no, I forgot. The Wild, that's who it was. Yes, the Minnesota Wild. He was not bad. And so, heading into next season, he's a player that's going to need a contract extension. Toronto, Edmonton, can we get this guy? Can we get this guy come to Canada? Nope. It's Steve Yzerman who steals him away and signs him to a 3-year, $4.75 AAV extension. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, Husso and Nedeljkovic, very good goaltending tandem, arguably the best goaltending tandem the Red Wings have seen in a decade? I mean, look, Howard was not good for a while, so it's tough to say for sure how good this tandem is in comparison to previous ones, but it's pretty good. It's up there. So I think this is a good goaltending acquisition. It was made before free agency even began, but on the day of free agency, day one, we saw ourselves some very good moves, very good, legit hockey players getting the bag from Stevie Y and his Red Wings goons, starting out with Andrew Copp. Boy, oh boy. This was a player that a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans were going out there and saying, man, how are we going to keep this guy? Are we going to be able to re-sign him? He's a pretty talented player, man. I don't know what's going on here. And then they traded him away for a first-round pick from the New York Rangers. And the Rangers fan base was like, okay, he's legitimately good for us. Like, he's a point-per-game caliber player. He's a big-bodied center. He can go out there, make things a little bit more difficult for the opponent, and he can produce points. How the heck are we going to go out there and afford this guy? Because we cannot lose him for nothing. We paid a first for him, and then he went to free agency and he signed with the Wings. So, Steve Yzerman, good on you for signing a guy that's legitimately good to a $5.625 million AAV salary. Now, sure, Copp is 28 right now. The contract goes on for 5 years, so it's going to be a pretty long amount of time that this player's going to stick around, and who knows how well the play style of an Andrew Copp is going to translate into the long term. But either way, he is here. He's going to improve the team. He's going to be a middle six, maybe top six caliber center, and he's going to be a very good presence on this squad, alongside of another physical specimen of a human being, Ben Chiarot, who was signed to a 4-year, $4.75 AAV cap hit contract. And I get it, he's 31 years old, he's not really going to age in the best way possible considering the way he plays, but for right now, what Ben Chiarot is a player that was good enough to fetch the Montreal Canadiens a first and more from the Florida Panthers. Sure, while he's not the best point producer, he's not going to go out there and light the lamp on fire or anything. What Ben Chiarot does is he makes your team a lot more difficult to play against, and he makes it so that the opposition has a lot more of a difficult time doing what it is they want to do. Sure, when you think of skills in hockey, you don't necessarily think of a player being able to cross-check players in front of their own goaltender as a skill, but Ben Chiarot is relentless, Ben Chiarot is ruthless, Ben Chiarot does that, and he's not afraid to do so, and he's not afraid to get penalized because of it either. He is a physical specimen who plays a good defensive shutdown game. He helped the Canadiens get to the Stanley Cup Finals. He was playing like 23 minutes a night when that happened. And so, this player heading over to Detroit, pretty good. You also had yourselves Dominik Kubalik and David Perron, two very strong forwards that I definitely do think can bolster this forward core tremendously. David Perron is one of the more underrated scorers in the entire NHL, in my opinion. He is still going strong despite the fact that he is 34 years old. If the contract does not work out, hey, it means Stevie Y can just trade him back to St. Louis at the deadline for picks, because you know David Perron's going to go out there and produce some points. Dominic Kubalik is a guy that fell out of love with the Chicago Blackhawks because the Blackhawks are run in such a strange way. They refuse to qualify his RFA rights, and even though he's just a few years removed from posting up 30 goals and being behind Makar and Hughes for the Calder, he went out there and put up a pretty reasonable stat line. He was at 15-ish on both goals and assists, which is not terrible. $2.5 million a season, adding that type of player to your roster definitely isn't bad. We saw what happened with Pysyk, the last Red Wings Swiss player to go out there and get a contract. Now, Kubalik is not Swiss himself, but he played in the Swiss League, which is what I mean. And Suta is not a bad player for Detroit, so seeing Kubalik get added onto the squad too, it's definitely a good sign to see. And then you have Olli Maatta and Mark Pysyk signed officially on July 14th. These are two defensemen that can come in here and actually help the team out. Pysyk got a one-year contract at $850,000. I think he's also a super underrated player, a guy that could probably fill into the top 4 if necessary, but if you have him as your 5-6 defenseman, it is a rock-solid decision to have. Olli Maatta, while I definitely do question his consistency and ability in the same way, considering the fact that he got $2.25 million a year, he is still another NHL caliber defenseman that can come in here and help out the team. And so, when you take a look at Chiarot, Maatta, and Pysyk, these are 3 very legit NHL caliber defenders coming over onto the Red Wings. And when you take a look at the forward core, I mean, Kubalik, Perron, and Copp, this is a full line. That's a line that got added there. A line of very capable NHL players. Copp could be a point-per-game guy. David Perron could be an under-point-per-game guy. Dominik Kubalik, if everything goes right in an 82-game season, I could see him getting upwards of 35, 40, 45 points even. Maybe even 25 goals if he's lucky again. And Stevie Y is the guy who went out there and did it all. Of course, you have the goaltender too, Husso, coming over and supporting the back end. The Red Wings so far, at the time of me recording this audio, have been fantastic with their free agency acquisitions. Sure, they have only made one trade. Like, this trade for Ville Husso is the only one they've done, and while it's not the biggest move in the world, when you talk about the aspect of the team that it actually improves, this is a tremendous piece of the machine that Steve Yzerman has coagulated to bring yourself a package of a team that looks a lot better on paper than it did last year. You still have all the important pieces coming back, Raymond, Seider, Larkin, Bertuzzi, etc., but all you've done is added a lot more pieces onto this squad, and it's making things very intriguing heading into the next season's worth of play. We've seen a few of these Eastern teams take steps up. Detroit, Ottawa, they come to mind right away. You also have teams that are taking a few steps backwards, like the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example. The Devils and the Islanders, hey, they didn't get any better with Gaudreau coming to their team. Psych, because Gaudreau went to Columbus. So all of a sudden, this Eastern Conference is looking a lot more wide open. I get it, the NHL is not really structured in a way where Eastern Conference, Western Conference, that doesn't really matter anymore because of the divisional system. But still, the Red Wings are improving. Other teams are not. Talk to me in the comments about the additions that Steve Yzerman made to his squad in this year's free agency period. Of course, if there's another player or two that is added after I record this audio and before I upload this video on Saturday, whenever the heck it's going to be, Sunday, I think, we'll make another video about something whenever that happens, but for now, talk to me in the comments all your thoughts about Husso, Perron, 2 St. Louis Blues, by the way. It just kind of clicked to me that that was the case. Copp, Chiarot, Kubalik, Pysyk, and Maatta. I hope you enjoyed this video, Trolls 99, and bye.